to the unit 2 for those who arrived late or had to miss the class. Okay, so let's get to organizational strategy. Now, some of you have been working for different corporations and companies for some time. You know that in order for organizations to survive, they need to have a strategy, a way to succeed, a way to survive, a way to excel. And different companies have different kind of advantages over each other, even though they are in the same business, and that's called competitive advantage. And in both of these things, if information systems are included, that gives you further advantage by minimizing your work and making you more productive. And that's basically the focus of this chapter is. So in order to accomplish this, we will be looking at something called a business process. We will be looking at how businesses may model these processes. We will be looking at different kinds of business pressures. We will be looking at organizations which are basically working with Porter's 5 competitive forces as to what they are. So that's basically the focal point of the chapter, and we will be looking at a lot of these things in this chapter. Okay, does anybody has any question before we start? Okay. Now, the first thing is that there is always an opening case at the beginning of the chapter. This time it's about Grub. No, it's not about Grubhub. It's about National Basketball Association. Okay. Anyway, the business processes is what we will be looking at as the first thing. First of all, what is the definition of an organization in your heads? How do you envision an organization? You can use chat to write down your answers so that not too many people are speaking at the same time.
Well, our organization is to me is like a strong team of different people with different skill set, being successful in whatever program they have going on, work together as a team and make it work.
Okay. Okay. Ethan wrote a comment, a large corporation. Okay. Ismail wrote a group of people working together to accomplish a common goal, and Brianna wrote a people or team with a particular purpose. Okay, these are all some very good definitions. Collective goals, specific purpose, common goal, particular purpose. Okay, so the definitions that people are putting in, there is one thing that's quite common across the board, and that is a purpose. For an organization to exist and excel and remain existing, it needs to have a purpose. But purpose is not enough. What else do you need besides purpose?
Structure is good, is important too.
Okay. Okay, so you have a structure, you have a purpose. Okay.
And you have to, you have to have a set goal of what you want, and
you need to have a set goal, which is a sort of a under purpose. Strategy is another thing. You need to have some kind of strategy when you're doing a business, and
you have to have the right pieces, correct people working for you or working together. Without the correct setup, you will never be successful.
Okay, cool. So as an organization, you need to have strategy, you need to have goal, purpose, structure, a service, something to give in terms of a service or a product, team-oriented. All of these things are great components for an organization. But in order for an organization to actually, this is to make a good organization, right? But for this organization to sustain in long term, an organization, whatever you are providing, there must be a need for that. Somebody wants it. So in Marketing 101, we usually teach in the School of Business that if there is no need for an item that you are selling in the market, then what should you do? Create one, okay? And a lot of the products that you and I have been using in our household, people are working just fine without them. But somebody created the need, and that need became a norm. And now if you do not have it, people look at you like, are you for real? But when you didn't have it, you're doing perfectly fine. Now, how many of us grew up on smartphones? Some didn't, right? Okay, how many of us grew up using computers, super fast computers? Some didn't, right? But at some point in time, there wasn't a need. Now, if you tell somebody today that I don't have internet access, we'll be like, oh, where do you live? Like, do you live outside of the city limits, or what's the reason yet you do not have? Because, you know, there are neighborhoods. Some of the faculty members live in smaller towns, and the cabling companies are asking them money, out-of-pocket money, to lay the cables to their neighborhoods. And they, I mean, like the homeowners are not willing to pay that kind of money because this is a lot of money. So they are out of luck. All they can use is the hotspots, which they have to get from the cell phone companies. And they are not the greatest, but better than having no internet. Again, you know, there are a lot of things these companies do so that their product becomes a need. And how is this possible? Well, a lot of data needs to be collected about the people. If you try to market BMW to a city where an average income is $50,000, you won't be able to sell a Beamer to these guys, you know? So you need to be able to have a right market, to have some kind of an approach to be able to sell stuff. So you make a need, but the need has to be made among the group of people who can really afford the need or could strive for that need. And data does a lot of job in this whole process. So what businesses do, a very important component of a business in these days, business needs to have a process. Now, processes are not monitored in most small to mid-sized to large businesses, at least in the US and most of the developed countries, on paper. People are going paperless. People are going more connected. As a result, you need infrastructure which is linked with information technology. So business processes are also not confined within a building. They are all over the world. For example, at Gateway Technical College, I need services from so many different vendors that if I'm not connected to them, I won't be able to receive my service in a timely fashion. For example, office supplies. There has to be somebody that I have to send in the request in a timely fashion so that they can be delivering stuff all over the 3-county area where I have 10 locations. You know, some of them are campuses, some of them are centers. Right in Burlington, we have like 2 centers, less than a mile from each other. In Kenosha, you know, we have, we are working with 2 high schools, and we have a center, and then we have a campus. In Racine, we have a campus. In Sturtevant, we have a center. In Alcorn, we have a campus. So all of these services that we are taking from different places needs to be connected, and all the resources needs to be managed successfully. Let's take, on the other hand, somebody like Uline, for example, okay? A big, massive, much bigger than Gateway, right? Gateway revenue is in millions, you know, and their revenue is in billions. Massive difference. So their processes are far more complicated than Gateway's process. So there must always be inputs. There must always be resources which are allocating that input and help you generate a better output. So you must always maintain between the efficiency and effectiveness. What do you think is the reason that Google was able to bypass Yahoo? Yahoo wanted to buy Google at a price where Google said no, and Yahoo was like, you're too expensive. So Yahoo said, who cares? You will die tomorrow. I'm huge. Right? Even if I don't buy you, I'm okay. But what happened over the period of time, Yahoo is the one that struggled, and Google is the one that outgrew Yahoo. There must be a reason behind Google to bypass Yahoo. Their concentration was on one goal that is done efficiently and effectively. What was the sole purpose of Google when it first came out?
Search engine.
Search engine, okay. When Google came out as a search engine, what was Yahoo back then?
Yahoo was email, it was financial, it was news, it was
Search.
engine, it was a lot of it, just about everything.
Exactly. So those kind of places over the internet, which are called one-stop shop, are called web portals. Web portals, okay? So Yahoo was perfectly fine because Yahoo was like, everybody come through my search engine. My marketing plans are doing great. Back in those days, we don't used to collect as much data about people as we do now. So I do not need anybody to, I mean, like, I'm just doing fine. However, Google concentrated on just plain text, simple web page that would load faster and be able to give you better results. So they worked very efficiently on smart searches. They created web crawlers that would go out there and crawl as much as of the web as possible and bring that data set back and be able to efficiently bring the results to you that are more closer to what you're looking for. And over the period of time, because Yahoo had too many things going on, over the period of time, people started switching. When people started switching, then Google started growing, but they did not lose the efficiency and effectiveness, okay? Now, at the same time, Yahoo had a competitor. Other than Google, not the search engine, but web portal. Who was the web portal competitor of Yahoo?
AOL.
AOL was one of them, okay? And we had Microsoft. Microsoft still has MSN.com. MSN.com was not that big until and unless Microsoft said, oh, nobody's visiting it. So what should we do? We start creating a web portal. So we should start people from Hotmail, because Hotmail was the place to go for an email. If you don't have Yahoo, you have Hotmail. So they start putting Hotmail sign-in through MSN. If you log out of Hotmail account, you will be redirected to MSN.com. That's how they wanted people, because people were using Yahoo for search and Hotmail for email. So Microsoft started looking around for different markets. They said, oh, let me grab the teens. So there used to be a teen offline chat system. You know, I mean, like, it's like a forum, a teen forum. Back in 90s, it was called Bolt.com. Microsoft purchased that, okay, incorporated all that stuff into their own, okay, now they have the whole data set and shut it down. And then at that time, they were trying to then start promoting MSN Messenger as a competition to Yahoo Messenger. Google is not in any of these businesses right now. Google is just concentrating on search engine, and these guys are competing with each other on different things. And then Google starts growing itself, and one of the things Google does, it brings in Gmail. And exactly what Apple did Gmail became a prestige because they'll be like, okay, only 40,000 people in the US can have Gmail. And it's by invitation only. Now people are asking each other, who has Gmail? Who has Gmail, right? It's a big thing. I have a Gmail account because now this is prestige. And only you can get an invite from somebody who has a Gmail, and they were only given limited invites. So what is going on? They're creating a competitive advantage. The people playing with people's psyche. So that's exactly where people were like, okay, if something is limited, that means it has a prestige to it. They fell for it. And when they built their customer base, they made it available for everybody. And now everybody had it. Then they had to start launching other services to compete with the competitors. But any service that was dying at their competitors, they did not invest in that. Well, in that whole journey, Google had tons of products that came and died. Can you tell me any Google product that Google tried its level best to promote in recent time after Facebook took off, okay, and it died, didn't do too well, and they had to shut it down?
Google Glass.
It was Google Plus or Circle, right? They had this whole idea of Google Plus, Circle kind of an idea where they wanted people to be able to connect with each other. But guess what? Nobody did. Nobody wanted to use it. Everybody got it, but nobody wanted to use it. So eventually they shut it down. Google Glass could be one of them, or there may be some other products that they've used. Over the period of time, they realized, like even in the COVID times, they moved to Google Meetings, Google Rooms, okay, as opposed to what? What did it have before? That Google Meets, right? Google Meets. Smaller groups.
Didn't they have Hangouts too?
And then Hangout, right? Hangouts. And they dropped all of that and they started, and it's still, everybody's using Zoom. Nobody's using Gmail services until and unless those companies who can't pay for Zoom, then they're already paying for that one service. So they're just using it. If you're an iPhone user, already, what is the likelihood of you using Google products for video conferencing or video calling? Video calling. Would you use video calling if you're an iPhone user? Google services? No, you'll FaceTime. Okay, so people were switching away from FaceTime because FaceTime is only one-on-one. I can't add people. So people were like, okay, how can I have a group video chat? So Apple realized, oh, I should get the market too. So next version, they start doing video conferencing style FaceTime. And Facebook was like, oops, I'm losing market share. So I should also make changes to my product. What is their product for video calling, audio calling? Not Facebook Messenger.
Messenger.
Not Facebook Messenger. Very few people use Facebook Messenger. They probably maybe on computer, they may be using it. Very few people are using it as an app on their phone. They're using another product that comes from Facebook a lot more than they would use Messenger.
Is that the WhatsApp?
Exactly. So now they're adding that feature over there. So, and then WhatsApp realized, okay, people are doing business on WhatsApp. So let's create two versions of WhatsApp, WhatsApp and business WhatsApp. Now with business WhatsApp being different from WhatsApp, now people can get a phone number from Gmail, right, from Google. You can get one phone number. So on the same phone, you can have your business WhatsApp on one number, which is actually not a actual number, and the other number is for the regular WhatsApp. So things like that, companies have done to gain competitive advantage over each other. So again, you know, these are all business decisions that are made in different business processes. Typically, if you go inside an organization, you may see business processes related to accounting, related to finance, related to marketing, related to productions, operations, human resources, management, all sorts of operations. So for those of you, I mean, like, is there anybody who still doesn't has the book yet? Everybody has the book? Okay. So in chapter 2, please go to table 2.1, and I would like you to go over all the examples in all these different areas. Just read through those examples in table 2.1. I think it's page 37, if I'm not wrong.
It's 38.
It's 38. Okay.
I got a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
What did I miss in the past 20 minutes?
We were just going over chapter number 2, and we have come this far as table 2.1. We've been having discussion. That's okay. And Osmar, if you don't have the book yet, Jen, go over slides 8 and 9 in the PowerPoint. So I believe you did not do the assignment either because you don't have the book, right? Okay. Do you, I mean, like, are you anticipating getting it this week, or how does that go? Because all the assignments and quizzes will expire tonight. So if you can tell me some kind of a timeline, I will keep them open. For the unit 1, everything will expire tonight. So do you have any timeline?
It'll probably be next Monday.
Okay. Okay. So I will keep it open for another week, but then you would have to do 2 units in the same week.
Speaking of chapter 1,
Yes, go ahead.
I didn't even know how to like describe it like at all.
Then how would I know?
I don't know.
If you don't know the problem, how to describe it, how am I supposed to know? So what, try it. What is the problem? Is there a problem?
It's just like, to me, there was kind of a lot in it.
You're cutting out, so I did not hear the last piece. Sorry.
To me, there was kind of like a lot in it, so I don't know how to kind of like condense that.
Okay. Would mean like the questions were loaded? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, you know, you are at college. This is not high school, right? So things are accordingly. So yeah. By the way, welcome to college. Right. You know, things are different at this level. So yeah, when we want some details, so you got to give details. Usually other instructors that I notice who teach this class, they give all the questions at the end of the chapter. So how would that go then?
Horribly.
Right.
Whenever you get a camera, bro, I gotta see what you look like. You're cracking me up over this side.
Okay, so I changed the due dates for assignment 1 and quiz 1 till next week, Thursday. For those of you who are in need of more time. And chapter 2 is exactly the same way. Like it's due by the 22nd. I mean, like I'm not changing due dates for unit 2. Okay. Now we are going to the next topic, which is about cross-functional processes. Cross-functional processes are those processes that require multiple departments or multiple areas within a business to run the process. They're not limited to a single area. For example, if you have any accounting need, that will be done by the accounting department. However, if you are trying to make a product and be able to sell the product, then that is cross-functional. It is actually goes through several different function areas in your organization. So it may be starting from your suppliers who are supplying you with materials and goods, to your inventories where you're making sure that you have enough goods, to the actual production plants where things are getting used to produce items which will then be going to other places from where there will be packaged and put in warehouses, waiting for orders to come in to be fulfilled. So things of that nature are basically going over several different areas from start till they're delivered to the customer. So we need, there's a greater need for information system in those areas, especially. There is an example in the book. Is it page 39 maybe for you guys? It's called cross-functional processes. It starts out with a example of cross-functional process, the procurement process. Okay, so go over this particular example. It's like 5-6 paragraphs. I'll give you guys a few minutes to read. Okay, and then I want you to then look at the flow chart in figure 2.1. So do that, and then we'll connect back in a few minutes.
What page is that one?
For me, it is page 38, but
I
maybe
believe it's page 37.
37. Okay, okay. Because I'm using an ebook, so it may have different pages than your book. And my ebook comes from Vital Source, so they may have different structure. So, but anyway, it's around 37, 38. Okay, so just so that you know, we have an example over here that talks about from a customer all the way to fulfilling what the customer needs. So somebody as a traveler is planning a trip, checks for the flights, if flights are available, if seats are available on the flight, then submits ticket order back to the received ticket order. Now, sometimes multiple people are trying to access the limited number of seats. They all see that the seats are available and they all click book. So if I'm not careful as a business, I may overbook. Excuse me. So to avoid that situation, as a business, I need to check again if seats are available. And how do I check to see if the seats are available and multiple people are coming in? I need to have a queue. And that queue is running pretty fast. And I may have multiple queues for multiple flights running at the same time in memory. And on first come, first serve basis, I check to see if seats are available. Then I can reserve a seat. If at that time seats are not available, I got to redirect the user back and say, oops, not available. So sometime what happens, especially in online shopping around Thanksgiving time, right? We place an order. And then what happens after a day or two? We receive an email saying we have canceled your order or it's on back order. Okay, it's on back order. And sometimes they say, well, we will receive our next shipment in 2 months, 3 months, depending on where are they getting it from. So a lot of these things can happen if the business processes are not done greatly. Okay. Okay, so the whole process will then go from there. Information systems and business processes. So information systems, vital role in 3 areas of business includes executing a business process, means running a business process, capturing and storing the needed required data, and then monitoring the process performance to make sure things are done in a timely fashion. Now, look back at this process here, okay? So you submit an order ticket, we receive a ticket order, we make sure that the seats are available. If seats are available, we reserve a seat. If we reserve a seat, we need your credit card information, right? We are still in the process. And sometimes what happens, right at this step, things don't work because somebody else put in the credit card much faster than you did, and the seat is gone. It's not there anymore. Okay. Now, because here, after you use your credit card, I need to leave my business and go to my bank. My bank will then go to your credit card bank. And then they will communicate back and forth with each other. And then they will going to send me a notification. And that notification will tell me if it went through or not, if the payment did go through or not. So in that particular case, we're dealing with the seller's merchant and the buyer's merchant, the banks, okay? And then things are done when complete. In some businesses, this is done much faster than others, okay? In some businesses, they grab your information and they put it on a batch, and then they run the batch processing in the end, at the end of the day. Upon getting basic approval from the bank, they hold on to that amount. They keep collecting all the amounts upon approval. And at the end of the day, they would just batch process that. Okay. I don't know. Have you guys ever been to Costco? Okay. Did you ever go to their self-checkout counters? Okay. Have you ever noticed how quickly the receipt prints after the payment is approved, as opposed to the printing of the receipt at Walmart or Target? Target is still a little bit better than Walmart. I mean, like Costco, I mean, like it's so much faster. It's just like, here is a beep, and the next second, the receipt is out. Even their processors for printing the receipt are so fast. It just in a second, it just prints the whole receipt out. So again, you know, someplace someone has invested in something to give customer an experience. I don't know. I've never been to Sam's Club. I've not been to Sam's Club in years. I don't know what Sam's Club story is. Is this all done in competition, or maybe one is better than the other? Is there anybody who has experienced both recently? Sam's Club and Costco. Sam's Club is owned by Walmart, right? Cornelius, I just looked at your comment. Exactly, it is a flow chart. It is a flow chart. Yep. And flow charts are used in other places besides intro to programming and database class. Okay. So monitoring the process is actually very important as well, that when the project is going on, the things are getting monitored. And then you should be able to capture the data and store it. So let's get back here. Do you want to capture the credit card and store it? Well, there are some businesses who will ask you that, would you like us to hold on to this credit card information for future use? And some won't. Some customers would trust some businesses, some won't. So it basically depends, you know, and this is all for convenience. Number one reason, convenience, right? Number two, because of convenience, you are coming back to them because now you don't have to enter your information over and over again. You're just coming back to them because they have your information. You know, the moment you do this, boom, it gets done. Like, for example, Amazon introduced Prime subscription. The biggest stake for the Prime subscription was that you will not be charged shipping costs for a lot of the items. There are still some items for which you would have to pay shipping. And then on top of that, you may get some other services. And people are like, okay, I'll pay $100, $120, $130 because my shipping cost, if I'm not a Prime member, exceeds that amount. Okay, so you make that choice. Now what happens the next year? You're only going to Amazon because you've already made payment for them. You're not going to Walmart. You're avoiding Walmart because they're charging me shipping for the same item that Amazon says I'll ship it for free. Things of that nature. So those are some of the things businesses think about as to how I can improve my bid process. Okay. So information systems help execute the process by informing employees when it is time to complete a task, or providing required data, or providing a means to complete the task. For example, we get notified on periodic basis when to do certain activities related to students, so we perform them. Okay, so things of that nature. Capturing and storing processing data. So now this is a very critical part. I think we spoke about this last week also. On social media, the amount of data you and I produce. Similarly, if you go to websites where people come in and buy left and right crazy stuff, hundreds of dollars of data is coming in every minute, every second or whatever, you know, hundreds and thousands of, all this data needs to be captured. All of this data needs to be processed. Now comes the question, how much should you capture? What should you capture? What should you not? Let me ask you a simple question. If you know your subtotal and you know the sales tax rate, how important is it to capture and store sales tax amount?
With sales tax amounts being relatively consistent, that's one of the key things to capture to make sure it's always available.
But that can always be calculated because you have the subtotal and you have the sales tax rate. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what can be calculated is usually not stored. That's how businesses go by to save up on the space. And if I have 300 million customers and or 300 million transactions, sorry, 300 million transactions, and I am not storing one piece of data because I can always calculate it, I have actually saved myself 300 million times 8, whatever the number comes out to be, 300 million times 8 will be 2,400 million bytes of storage space I've saved for myself, because each decimal value takes 8 bytes to be stored. So things of that nature, if businesses are thinking like that. Okay, if you know somebody's hire date, then when they were hired at a certain place, what can you calculate from that?
The length of time they've been employed at
Exactly.
that particular place.
Exactly. So you don't need to store that information. If you know somebody's birth date, you can always figure out their age. So you do not need to store their age. Okay. Do you guys know that your driver's license hold a lot of information about yourself, right? Including your date of birth and stuff like that. Just your ID number itself holds. For example, if you have a driver's license in front of you, or you just open it and look at the very first placeholder. Is that the first letter of your last name?
Should be.
Yes,
Just one indicator, and your year of birth, and within that year, which date, because there are 365 or 366 days in a year, it just holds that number right there through which they can calculate which year, what date you're born. So things of that nature, it can do that. Anyway, so information system is an extremely important stuff, yet we have to be careful about what we want to store and what we do not want to store. So we continuously evaluate the information as it's coming through, and we check it at different levels. Okay, so sometimes businesses would have to figure out a way to improve through the process of re-engineering. Means something is done and now need to undo it to do it better. Undo it to do it better. So I got to continuously re-engineer for the sake of improving it. And doing that process sometimes require far more efforts than engineering it in the first place. But again, I am not looking at a different architecture. I just want to do better in the current architecture. As a result, the whole driving factor is maybe customer satisfaction, maybe cost reduction, maybe a faster way to fulfill the order. Maybe I want to improve quality. Maybe I want to have better productivity, whatever is the driving force. Okay. So there is a re-engineering process that came about from Michael Hammer and James Champy, 1993, called a BPR process, a redesign of an organization's business process to increase productivity and profitability. And that was the main focus of this BPR. And your book also talks about that right here, business process engineering. I think somebody's microphone is on. Okay, so business process re-engineering, business process improvement, and business process management. For me, it's page 43. It may be somewhere around that for you guys as well. So it talks about the BPR, which is a strategy for making an organization's business processes more productive and profitable. The key to BPR is for enterprises to examine their business processes from a clean sheet perspective and then determine how they can best reconnect those processes to improve their business functions. Although some enterprises have successfully implemented BPR, many organizations found this strategy too difficult to start clean sheet and build yourself up, okay? Because it's too lengthy, too comprehensive. The impact on employees and facilities and existing investments in IS, all of that gets affected. It's overwhelming. So despite the many failures in BPR, businesses increasingly began to organize work around business processes rather than individual tasks. The result was a less radical, less disruptive, and more incremental approach, which was called BPI, Business Process Improvement. Okay, so that's another approach businesses have taken. And then they go through different phases for that. They may have a defined phase in which they need to define what exactly I'm trying to accomplish. What is it that I need to fulfill through this process? And then once I do that, I need to start measuring that. What are the metrics in terms of time and cost? And then analyze and then implement. One of the byproducts of BPI is Six Sigma. I don't know if you guys have heard of Six Sigma. It's used a lot in manufacturing plants. They call it Lean Six Sigma training, in which they have white belt training, green belt training, black belt training, different training models, right? So I remember being part of the MEAT division, which is manufacturing, engineering, and IT, even though it doesn't directly involve, like in IT, we do not work with Lean Six Sigma kind of stuff, but just for the sake of exposure, I went through the training, but I only did the white belt training of Lean Six Sigma. I did not go any further because I did not need to go any further. It didn't really apply that much to IT. Okay, so you define, you measure, you analyze, you improve, you control. Those are the 5 basic tenets of BPI. Okay, now let's go down to business pressures, organizational responses, and information technology support. Okay, this is a very nice diagram, which is slide number 28, and for me, page number 47. Okay, I don't know, whichever of the two pictures is more visible to you. So look at it, right in the center of everything is IT. Driving factor. A lot of the components that are related with IT, e-commerce is one of them. Strategic systems, customer focus and service. You have self-service, you have enterprise resource planning, you have business processes, intelligent data management. A lot of these things are around IT, and they're under the organizational performance responses. And then you have outside ring of business environment pressures, okay? So customers are getting more and more powerful. What does that mean? Customer wants things now. They dictate when they want it. If you do not deliver, they will go elsewhere. So the customers have become very powerful. So that's a pressure on IT. I got to fulfill the request in a timely fashion. Okay. Changing workforce. COVID has done a lot to this factor. People literally have started demanding, I'm not working for you if you do not allow me to work remotely. I mean, businesses that could not think of sending people to work remotely have sent people to work remotely. Also, there are many other factors that have been the driving force. Okay. Now, for example, need for real-time operations, global economy, and strong competition coming from inside and outside the country. Those are some of the economic factors. Okay. Then you have technological factors. There has been new technology out there, and should you adopt, should you pay enough to have technological advancements within your organization. Then on top of that, there are societal, political, and legal issues. Maybe there is a change in government compliance and regulation rules. There's a tariff, new tariff. How would that affect your supply chain? Okay, should you now be looking for new suppliers? Where will you getting your goods from, your raw materials from? As a result, everything will be delayed. And we have recently witnessed something like this in the US, right? With tariffs in place and then the COVID hitting in the auto market, auto car makers, we don't have the chips. We are still facing, even though it's a little bit better, that we do not have enough cars in the dealership, brand new cars, as there's a need. Okay. you go to these stores like Target, Walmart, at times you will find empty shelves at places where the shelves never used to be this empty a few years ago. There has to be some disruption in the process. Now, there are some rice producing countries and they have massive floods, or wheat producing countries that have massive floods or drought that has affected the entire supply chain for those people who are dependent on that. For example, again, I mean, like cooking oil. What are some of the sources through which we can get cooking oil?
Olives,
Olives. Okay, you get olive oil. Okay. What else?
seeds or nuts,
Give me some examples.
like
Peanut oil.
yeah, peanut oil, grapeseed,
Grapeseed oil. Okay. Vegetable oil coming from several vegetables, right?
Avocado oil.
Avocado oil. Okay, that's a big thing now. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Expensive, but big thing for one reason I'll tell you. And then we are also seeing, we saw canola oil. Everybody was going after canola oil, going away from corn, right? Corn oil.
Mhm.
And then we saw another oil coming into the oil shelves that was not there pre-COVID, or was not that much pre-COVID. It's not avocado. The oil is white color, thicker, paste-like oil. Let's see if you can get to it.
Coconut.
Coconut oil, right? Exactly. People are creating markets now, and the doctor's saying, no, coconut oil is not good anymore. But companies have already made their way onto your shelves, and people are still buying it because at some point in time, somebody said get coconut oil, and now everybody's pushing for avocado. Why? What is their competitive advantage? That they have made their way into people's life. Did anybody pay it? I know they're expensive, but what is their competitive advantage?
many health benefits over other oils.
Yeah, but something that they state very proudly on their bottles. Usually when you heat an oil, what happens to the oil?
It evaporates.
It breaks. And olive oil that was being asked by doctors to use for all these years is not a good cooking oil. Great for salads, great for pouring. But as soon as you start heating it, it's disaster. But avocado can take the heat up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which no other oil can take. Usually oils start getting iffy after 200 degrees Fahrenheit, or some 150, some 170, some 180. So they got some competitive advantage, and that's what they're banking on. So that's what businesses have to do. There are ethical issues, there are social responsibilities, there may be a tax, there may be homeland security issues, and businesses have to deal with all of that, and still continue to grow. Especially in the world where globalization is becoming a norm for most big organizations. Okay. Now, is there anybody over here who has traveled to other countries? Give me a reaction. Instead of everybody speaking at the same time, you can pick a reaction like a check mark. Only give me a check mark if you have. Don't give me an X if you have not. And then in the chat, can you also write the name of the country or names of the countries, depending on if you have been to more than one. Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for Ernesto, right? Okay, Ernesto. Oh. Is Ernesto also checked? Devin, did you put your country down? I mean, outside of the USA. Okay. Okay. So a lot of you have been to Mexico, for example, you know, wide variety of you have been to Mexico. Okay. So when you go to Mexico, did you try the Mexican food in Mexico? And how do you compare that to the Mexican food in Kenosha? Or Racine or Milwaukee? Any difference? Okay. Why? Same company, maybe same names.
The food out there is a more authentic and probably built from scratch versus the one here is even the stuff they send to make like the avocados, you could pick it right off of the tree if you go to a foreign country versus here you're getting it shipped from somewhere to here. So it's probably not ready when it was shipped here.
Oh, even if it was growing on the border of Texas on the other side in Mexico, and you would throw it over to get cooked, right? You will still not get the same taste. Why? Because people in Mexico have certain taste. If you do not deliver to that taste, they will not going to take it. People in US have certain taste. And if you do not deliver to that taste, they will not going to take it. So people from Mexico, the authentic people, the authentic cook, not the people in the US going to Mexico to learn how to cook and coming back cooking, they will still try to cater to our taste. Now, for example, within US, Americans cooking fish. Have you ever been to South? Like Louisiana? Have you ever tried the fish in Louisiana versus New York versus Milwaukee? It's different. It's different.
Especially the catfish.
Okay. Now, what is the serving size in Louisiana, New Orleans versus serving size in Chicago? Different. Different. You go out there and you're like, oh my God, who can eat this much? And to them, it's like, oh, this is normal. So businesses work the same way. You think McDonald's going to Southeast Asia will serve them what they serve us over here? They will be out of business pretty soon. They have to change their menu around to some extent. Okay. For example, think about McDonald's going to a vegetarian country. How many days will they survive if they keep the same menu? 0. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. If McDonald's goes with their existing menu to, let's say, a Muslim country, what would they have to take out of their menu?
Pork products.
Pork, exactly. And then whatever other products they're using, like chicken or beef, they got to get it from halal source. So they would have to have their meat manufacturing plants in some nearby countries where things are done according to how people consume. Same would go for kosher. Okay, so these companies, when they go out, they basically change. When they change, they got to come back and modify their processes. Some countries, drive-through will fail. Why do you think drive-through will fail in certain countries?
A lot of traffic or no cars?
The second reason, no cars. People don't have cars, so you will not find drive-throughs. That's it. Okay, so depends on how it is. So let's move on to customers being powerful. driving factor, forces, globalization, life is changing, global village, people are getting connected. People know a lot about different places now than they did many years ago, okay? How many fruits do we enjoy now that we never heard of 20 years ago? If you ask your grandparents when they were a kid, if they ever heard of a dragon fruit, they probably might not have heard of a dragon fruit or some of the other tropical fruits. Or if you go to some of the other countries where they do not have the kind of apples that we have, they probably are not familiar with some of the names that we are familiar with. So anyway, moving on to The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. Okay, The World is Flat. That's a very interesting idea. Before I get to that, let me, I'm on page 49. Okay, page 49, technological innovation and look at the Apple. Okay, so Apple data. I want you to probably read through these bullet points in your books. Around page 48, 49, something like that. And then there are some Apple products that won't be around starting next year. And for example, iPod. This is the last year of iPod. Support for some of the products will be dropped. Some of the products are already non-existent. So there are different changes companies have to make, some tough decisions they have to take. For example, in the month of September, they announced their new phone. And unbelievable, around the same time when they are raving about their phones so much, you know what Motorola is planning for their next phone? A camera. How many megapixels do you know that camera has? The back camera? Can anybody guess the megapixel? On a
200.
camera, say it again, Dar.
200.
Exactly. 200 megapixel camera. And even the front camera will be 48 megapixel, the selfie camera. Phone will be 8K capable. Videos would be able to be recorded right from your phone. Even the facial video could be up to 40K. Sorry, 4K with 30 frames per second. And the rear camera could go 60 frames per second. Yeah.
Why so many megapixels though?
I mean, like, it's crazy what they are bringing in a phone that would cost less than $900. Okay. So again, competitive advantage. What can I do different? Where will I get my market share? Motorola, one of the biggest breakthrough when the company was dying many years ago was which phone that brought Motorola back. People were going crazy. This is before even iPhones were out.
The Razor?
Razor, very good. Yeah. Everybody wanted to have one slick, thin phone. You know, it was pretty pricey, not affordable for a lot of people, but it had its days. Prior to that, everybody wanted Blackberries. That was a thing to go. So, yeah, things. So, Focus, globalization 1.0 in the era of 1492 to 1800s, where driving forces were muscle, horsepower, wind power, steam power, okay? Then came the next era of the next 200 years. We had companies, okay? Instead of country focused, we were now company focused. Instead of colonialization, we were going for like, let's expand all over. Multinational companies means companies that were in multiple countries. The first half of 2.0 was falling transport costs, and the second half of 2.0 was falling telecom costs. So those were the main things that we were concentrating in for 200 years, okay? Did we had mass transportation on the roads in 1800s?
Nope.
No, I mean, like, we had rails probably, but we didn't have buses. We didn't have trams, maybe, we didn't have that good use of electric or other means. Then 2000 was a game changer. We had focus on groups and individuals as opposed to looking at countries or companies. And then came the convergence of 10 forces or flatteners, okay? Now, there was a big breakthrough in 1989 that's considered to be one of the driving force when the Berlin Wall fell. Okay, what is that thing? Does anybody know? What is it? Wall of Berlin? Where is it? Where is the Wall of Berlin? Germany. Okay, what's the big thing about 1989? November 9th, 1989. What happened? Okay, what was that wall for? What was the significance of that wall?
Split up East and West Germany.
Exactly. So the Germany was not one country. Germany was two countries, East Germany and West Germany. People on one side were extremely poor, that they couldn't even afford a coffee. And the other side where people were rich, or at least better off. And you were not allowed to go from the poor side to the rich side, and the rich side would not go to the poor side. Why would they do that? And they had different economic systems, different ways of running the governments, everything. That was a big breakthrough, that we were able to end the divide. And the Cold War, there's been a Cold War going on for a very long time after World War II. And over the period of time, we see off and on different things. And another big breakthrough was Netscape, 1995, goes public, comes up with a web browser so that you can browse the web based on Mosaic, but Netscape as a company. And then people started communicating, connecting over the internet. Development of workflow softwares came about that you would be able to manage, maintain, overlook at the workflows, how things are working and flowing digitally. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine an internet with no upload capability? That's how the Web 1.0 was. People were going out on the internet only to read with no interaction. You cannot interact. You cannot enter anything. You can only be on the receiving end. And then Web 2.0, when came, it allowed the communication channel were open. You were able to send data and you were able to receive something back. So uploading was something outside of that. It was through an FTP, file transfer protocol. Then came another wave, outsourcing. Okay, there's a difference between outsourcing and offshoring. Okay, outsourcing could be within the country as well. For example, if I want to do, if I have a lot of business coming in and I want to be able to send items to my customers faster, and I'm so big, I can actually go in contract with, let's say, UPS and said, why don't you take care of my shipping and handling, my receiving, whatever. You take care of that aspect. So I've outsourced that one component to a specialized company. A lot of companies do that. Offshoring is literally taking stuff over to somebody else's place and said, okay, we will now be asking you to take care of this affair for us, like many people did with the call centers. Okay, what do these people at the call centers do when they call us in the US? They call us with fake names. Okay, they will call us with names that we are familiar with. They will call us and say, this is Tom, this is Jim, this is Abby, this is Amy, you know, but behind the scene, they may have a different name. Then we have supply chaining. That's another thing, you know, all businesses need goods to come in and be able to enter their system and be able to produce the finished goods. Then insourcing. That's something I noticed at Abbott Labs when I was a corporate trainer for Abbott Labs through Gateway. I used to go on their facility to train Abbott employees when Abbott was one company and Abbott did not split from it. So in those days, Abbott is so massive that the entire company has a zip code to itself. It's just like the whole company is on a zip code. That's how big it is. And it has several departments. And those departments would bill each other for services. I mean, to me, it was like, really? You guys bill each other for services and you're one company? And I said, yeah. Like, wow. Okay. So anyway, it was information flowing everywhere, right? So changing nature of the workforce. Workforce is becoming more diversified. There are women coming in, single parents coming in, a lot of minorities coming in, veterans coming in, persons with disabilities coming in. So workforce is becoming very diversified. As a result, people have to adopt to new norms. Certain fields which were only open to certain gender are now becoming anybody could come in. Now think about fighting as a soldier and you're a woman and it's World War II. I mean, like, even in the US, was that a possibility? A woman soldier in the field? No. What about Vietnam War, 1960s? No, no. Now they are in combat. Now in certain countries, we have women flying F-16. Okay, they're everywhere in all fields. Now, similarly, we were in a training and we had this one gentleman in the training and he said, I'm the only person in the entire department or division, wherever he was, that's a guy. Because guys don't go in that division. It's usually women. So it's just like a mindset. That probably in the next 20 years, that idea may change. Do you guys remember the movie Meet the Parents? Okay. Oh, probably some of you remember. Oh, you know how he used to tease his son-in-law when he would show him the card of nurse to his little grandkid. He said, oh, because his son-in-law was a nurse, and male being a nurse, I mean, like, that was something people were still adopting to 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Male nurse? What do you mean? So he would just tease his son-in-law and son-in-law and say, well, I know it only comes in one gender, which is female. So people had the mindset. And they would even reflect that in a movie. So that I'm saying, things are changing. So as a result, what's going on? What is a big push in IT these days? Women in IT. Women in IT, there's a big push for that. A lot of the companies are looking for, why aren't this particular area not coming into IT? Why are we getting deprived of the intelligence of this particular area? And why is it going elsewhere? There's a change in thought process. People think that, oh, okay, certain genders can only go in certain areas. So it takes mindset change, right? So as a result, again, going back to powerful customers, increasing consumer sophistication and expectations, 24/7 support. Consumer is more knowledgeable about things. Why? Because you can just go to any website and compare the products, compare the pricing. You have tools out there that you can download in a web browser and will help you find good deals. Okay, we are going to Web 3.0. We are not there yet. Okay, so Web 3.0 is supposed to do what? It's supposed to customize for you based on the parameters you set. So for example, you want to go to a movie theater to watch a movie with two friends on a Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, and you usually take your dinner around between 5 and 6. So based on your habits, it should be able to reserve a table for you in a nearby restaurant where you can eat the meal of your choice based on your parameters, and also be able to make it to the movie theater in time. And the whole itinerary is planned for you, with reserving the table to buying the movie theater tickets to all the way through back home. Okay, so your digital assistant will work on the parameters you set. That's where they want to take us, where once you set your parameters, you forget about it. You don't have to worry about it. You have other things to do. So powerful customer, right, needs lot and lot, okay? Okay, so technological innovations are coming in very, very rapidly these days. And then the older items are getting substituted very quickly. Who gets to enjoy the latest and greatest? Customers, not businesses. Why? Why customers sometimes enjoy latest and greatest, but businesses don't? Cost. Okay, you need to buy just one iPhone to go on to the next one, and a business would have to buy maybe 100 of them, one for each employee that has an iPhone. So their cost is far more. So customers overall collectively in US may be spending money in billions, right? On the other hand, if you look at the collective money businesses are investing in a year is in trillions. It's a totally different ball game. There's an information overload, definitely, a lot of data coming in. At the same time, as good citizens, we have social responsibility, which some people don't fulfill. There are cases of students coming in and exploiting the system. They know that they will receive X amount of dollars from the state in the name of education. They enroll for classes. They never show up. They take the money, they disappear. They enroll again the next semester, and they do the same thing. However far they can exploit the loophole, they would do that. And when they cannot do it anymore, they try to find other loopholes in the system. Despite the fact we try to streamline the process, sometimes people do not fulfill their social responsibilities. Compliance with government regulations, okay, protection against terrorist attacks, ethical issues, which also, you know, social, ethical, very closely related though, okay? I don't know, have you guys ever watched that movie Matchstick Man? Matchstick Man. Okay. Who's the guy? I forgot his name. Anyway, they used to mug people through social engineering. They would call people representing XYZ company and somehow get hold of their bank information and then take away everything and then disappear. So that's basically what they were trying to show as to how people, even in these times, you know, I mean, like people get fooled. And I don't know if you have heard of that rich African prince who has all his assets in US and needs your help to take it out, and has like $3 billion sitting somewhere in a US bank and needs your help, and is willing to give you like $2 million. It's a scam. It's a scam. People fall for it.
You know what's annoying?
Yeah.
When I get the calls from Amazon.
Oh, I've been getting calls from China in Chinese from last 6 months.
I've gotten the social security. Your social security was hacked, and they need your information, and you know, before you need to contact them so they could. And then they still ask you to try to give them your social security number. I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Or you know, a friend of mine, he owns a business in Milwaukee, and he gets a call from V Energies. You haven't paid your bill, and you will lose electricity. And he runs a catering business, and he's smart. So he said, you know what? What will you gonna do if I don't pay my bill? They said, well, we're gonna just take your power away. In fact, there's a guy on his way to your shop, and he's like, okay, I'm waiting, let him come. And the other guy hung up the phone because they don't do that. That's not their process. They don't call you and send a guy. We're not living in early 1900s, you know, it's a different world. So things of that nature, or they would call from IRS that you have taxes to pay. If you don't pay them right now, you will be handcuffed. Things of that nature. My brother actually, you know, got a call from this guy who was claiming to be calling from IRS. And my brother played along, and in the end, he said, you know, do you know where you called? He said, where did I call? He said, you called Department of Defense. And the guy hung up the phone. It's like crazy stuff. So anyway, so IT has been trying for a very long time to go green. Carbon management, there are some cities that we are trying to build all over the world, smaller cities which will have zero carbon footprint. In the name of that, we have been going the electric vehicles route. I think there was something that was recently passed under Biden administration that by 2050, all or 2030, I think 2050 was the year, if I'm not wrong.
2030 in LA, in California.
That all government vehicles will be electric. Was it 2000? No, 2030 was too close. Maybe 235 or something like that.
There's no way they're replacing all those Humvees.
Well, but it's okay to pass bills and not be around when it is time to actually implement it. At least you're good. You look good now, right? If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, well, we'll push the year. But yeah, absolutely. We're talking about billions of dollars to go green. Well, anyway, so moving on to compliance with government regulations. So there has been different kinds of acts that have passed in the last few years, pushing corporations, companies in different walks of life to follow different regulations coming from the government. Okay, protection against terrorists. That's another thing, employees in military reserves called to active duty. Information technology used to identify and protect against terrorists and cyber attacks. Where information technology has actually gone wrong at some of the airport facilities in its early days when we were trying to do that, where we detained some 7-year-old kids because their name matched the names of the terrorists. And like, okay, this is a 7-year-old kid. What do you expect? Like the system is telling me that this kid cannot board the plane. So anyway, things of that nature, but we have improved over the period of time. Department of Homeland Security has done a lot of reforms. Ethical issues. There has been a lot of stuff in the name of technology that has gone wrong, okay? Or it's like micromanaging, like monitoring employees' emails, to monitoring them through video cams, to monitoring their activity at work. A lot of these things in the court of law, anything that is provided to you by your corporation is their property and they have every right to monitor it. Anyway, so there has been some organizational responses to some of this stuff through their different models. One of them, as I am looking at on page number 57, make to order and mass customization. So make to order is one of the strategies that some companies have adopted, that we do not have anything ready until you order it, and then we'll make it for you. Other companies have taken the route of customization where you can customize what you need and we'll customize it for you. So things of that nature. Different companies, again, the idea is to get a competitive advantage. What can I do different that leads us into Porter's competitive forces model? Okay. Now, when I am in a business, so this is my organization, I will always have somebody competing with me, always. Either if there is no competition now, there will be a competition in the future. If I'm doing good, other people also want to tap into it and would like to take a piece of that pie. So I'll always have some competition going on, okay? So there will be threats of new people coming in also. That will be another threat. Buyer power. Buyers will probably have a bargaining power that I cannot challenge. I have to adapt to it. At the same time, suppliers, if they are running lower on the inventory, they will dictate. So at one point, I am dealing with suppliers, and the other point I'm dealing with buyers. So are my competitors. Now, who can find better suppliers and please their buyers? Is the competition I'm running in, where there is a constant threat of substitute products or services. Okay, now think about this. COVID, good example. What's one of the threat for organizations in COVID? Losing workforce. Okay, so to keep my workforce healthy, what do I got to do? I need to bring in fresh supplies of sanitary products, which nobody was even using it except for maybe my opticianer was using them, right? Every time he would check my eyes and he would just go to his hand sanitizer and sanitize it. And I'm like, oh, what, okay, maybe just because he's a doctor, he has it. Nobody would even invest in that kind of stuff. Now, people invested in it so much that it was hard to find. Suppliers were having a hard time supplying. So many people actually started this as a business in COVID. Hand sanitizers, masks, shields, gloves, masks of different quality, different grades. So I have a buyer who can only afford a 10-cent mask, and then on a daily basis. If I'm only selling 50-cent mask, they're not going to buy it from me. How can I keep the cost down? I got to find a supplier who can sell it to me at 8 cents and I can sell it at 10. Different kind of decisions have to be made at a business level. Extreme sense of threat, and I got to survive. I got to survive. Okay. So businesses have to do this all the time. So how can I survive this? Be innovative. Bring in something that gives you a competitive edge over your competitor. Okay. Okay. So going down to Porter's value chain model. Again, this is figure 2.4, which is also on slide number 54. I will let you read this diagram. Slide 54, or if you have your books, around page 59, figure 2.4. So I just want to make sure I'm still missing Malcolm Hawkins. Malcolm Hawkins is not here, so I'm going to mark him absent. I'm still missing Harvier. No Harvier. Okay, so I'm going to mark him absent. Everybody else is here, which is a great thing. Okay. Okay, I think Mr. Malcolm was not here last week also, so he is getting very close to getting kicked out of the class then. So that moves us to strategies for competitive advantage. Cost leader, can I sell things at a lower cost than others? How can I do better? I'm better because I'm different. I'm doing something new and you can't catch up. That's innovation. I can do the same thing more efficiently that you can do. That's operational effectiveness. Or I treat my customers better than you do, customer oriented. So something to bring on table that your competitor doesn't have is the way to go. So that's basically the gist of this chapter, is to tell you that how you have an edge over your competition. Okay. Now, towards the end of the chapter, I would like everybody to read this area, which is around page 65-ish. What's in IT for me, right? What's in it for me? It's basically IT. So for all business majors, so read these few paragraphs. Once you guys are done reading that, go up to About Business 2.1, which is around page 40 for me. NASCAR uses IT in its pre-race inspection. Read this case. Should be somewhere around the beginning of the chapter, right past figure 2.1. Give me a green check when you're done reading this case. So what do you think about question number 4? Is this some kind of, is this app some kind of strategic system from for NASCAR? Why or why not? What is so strategic about it? If you can type in the chat. So we'll give everybody maybe a minute or two to put their answer down in the chat. For number 4, is the app a strategic information system for NASCAR? Why or why not? Some of you already wrote your answers down.
You said number 4, right?
Correct. Remember, the question is not the driver focus. The question is NASCAR focus. So one of the thing is this system, does it automates anything? Does the system automates things that were paper-based before? Yes, okay. And does the system tracks information? Yeah, okay. And is this long-term tracking with some data collection involved in the process? So when you're tracking the data, you're collecting the data and you're collecting it consistently, and your process is also automated, could this help you as an organization to make a better strategic goals? Right? And also, once you are making those strategic goals and you have the data and you have the data coming in and you're monitoring it, so you probably can work on improving the performance. And as you're trying to improve the performance, you may also work on improving the productivity and be able to do the pre-race inspection process in more and more efficient manner. That's basically the strategic advantage NASCAR would have, maybe with itself, if it has no competition. I'm not competing with myself, you know, kind of a deal. That reminds me of a social media person that some people said to him, or her rather, that we see that you're not growing as much as other people. So her response in a video was, who told you I'm competing with others? I'm competing with myself. And if you look at me, I have a growth in the last 1 month. And I am where I was not a month ago. So anyway, I know sometimes I feel like this class has a lot more things that we can do. But again, you know, we're bounded by 2 hours. We got to close it out in 2 hours. And we got to give you your time back for you to do your dinner, sleep, whatever. But anyway, so what do we have to do during the week is the question in the last minute or so. At the end of this, you know, it takes some time for the Zoom to render the video. I will post the video down below here by tonight or tomorrow, depending on when it's done rendering. So you have chapter to read. You have questions to answer. This time I posted the questions. And then you have a quiz. So those are the 2 things to make sure. Now, some people are asking me, where are the questions? Well, you got to go. Maybe if the page numbers are not matching, just go to the end of the chapter. Just keep going down till you reach the end of the chapter. And towards the end of the chapter, right past the summary terms, you will hit the discussion questions. Okay, so you will hit the discussion questions eventually. And that's why I listed those questions here. Okay, here. Okay, so number 3, explain why IT. So I basically copy pasted the questions. Number 6, is IT a strategic weapon? Number 8, describe the 5 forces. And number 10, describe how IT can be. So some of these questions are open-ended. After you read the chapter, you can respond to it. And that's how you're going to get to it. Okay. So DAR, again, they may be overloaded. And that's the whole point, to get you thinking. See, Ethan is already thinking. He has his hat cap going up and down. Ethan, you're thinking? Yeah, you no, you're doing this. I thought you were taking your hat off and putting in the thinking hat on. I'm just kidding. It's just warm, right? Anyway, so guys, have a good one. I'll see you guys next week, or some of you tomorrow night. And have fun. Good night.
See ya.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend. See you tomorrow night.
All right, have a good night.
Take care. Bye.
I got a question for you.
Yes, Star. Go ahead.
Okay, so which class did you say the quiz was open book?
All classes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All classes that I teach, all the quizzes are open book.
All right, well,
Okay.
all right.
Cool.
Now I know. See ya.
See ya. Let me stop.